Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Rainey and welcome aboard if you are new, and welcome back if you're returning. This is the second of a three-part painting a winter landscape in watercolor series. I thought originally I could finish it in two, but I can't, so here's a little short update on painting a winter landscape using watercolor. If you watched the first video, you'll see I started with a light sketch and some nice watercolor washes. And then what I typically do is I'll do controlled washes throughout the next layers. But I like to start with a loose and fun wash at the very beginning, just to use what watercolor does so beautifully. It's spontaneous and exciting. And some of the effects that you get when you do wet on wet is they're just lovely. You can see in the sky that was a variegated wash, so I used a wet sky, and then I dropped in color in certain areas because I wanted to give the illusion of some clouds. And then in the background I used a combination that I use a little too much of ultramarine, alizarin crimson, and burnt sienna, and I used that in the background while it was still wet, and so it exploded to give you the illusion of a tree line. And then as I move forward, I'm painting with a wet brush on dry paper. Right here I'm tinting the houses because I want there to be the light sources coming from the left, as you can see from the shadows on the trees and in the snow. And so I will just continue to build and do controlled washes. This is what I mean by a controlled wash. You'll see I just put some plain clear water on top of the wash behind the barns. And now I'm adding a tint of gray. They were too purple for my taste, and so, and actually too purple if I wanted to remain a little bit true to the photograph. And so I decided I was going to do a tint over the top of a gray. I didn't use black diluted with water. What I used was ultramarine mixed with burnt sienna, and that gives you a beautiful gray. If you do equal parts, it's really just the perfect gray, and so that's what I will use. Now, I don't say no to using black and diluting it with water or Payne's gray, but what I did this time was I mixed my own gray. And so once those background washes begin to dry, you can see I'm laying in some very fine tree shapes, and they'll be overlapping and entangled. And you'll see some are dark, some are light, and I just keep building and going over that background wash to create those trees behind the barns. A lot of what I do is controlled washes at this stage. I won't go back and do a wild wet on wet wash. I might do some in the foreground, but I haven't yet decided how I'm going to handle that. The foreground, I'm going to have some grasses, little grasses poking through the snow, and for that, it will be the same. It will be a wet brush with paint on it on a dry paper. And when you paint like that, it gives you a lot of control. So I like to mix the spontaneous of what watercolor does with the control that I like to use in my painting. Sometimes I try to control a little bit too much, but that's really just my style. Now, everybody approaches things differently, and as you begin to paint, you'll be discovering your own style. So just be patient with it and keep practicing. And eventually your style is going to emerge without your even really having to think about it. So here I thought my shadows in the snow were a little bit too blue. So I went over them with a, tinted gray. Now this would have been better if I could have just mixed the right color or the color I wanted right from the beginning, but here I did not do any of my homework. I didn't do a color study and a value sketch, so I was doing it on the fly. And that's what happens sometimes. You end up with a color that you aren't particularly happy with, but what I did there is I just painted over it. That's called glazing, just to take it down to a more of a gray shadow than a blue one. And here I am trying to figure out the design of the grasses in this that are poking through the snow. And that's where I've left off so far. Come back again to watch me wrap up this painting. And I just wanted to let you know that this painting will be available once it is completed on my Etsy shop. And if you have any questions or would like more information, just be sure to drop me an email. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for stopping by.